All right, now we're flying, we're taking video, we're taking stills. It's time to land this bad boy.
Right.
There's a couple things that you want to do before you actually land. The first thing would be stop recording.
And that's a big one, because while the Mavic Pro does a much better job of knowing, hey, you've landed and therefore you're probably about to turn it off and stop the recording gracefully, there are other drones that may not do that. So and with my older Phantom, if you shut it off, oh well, that file that you were recording, that beautiful video you just took, is now corrupted. So always, just as a habit, manually stop the recording before you start the landing procedure.
All right. Also, before you bring the drone back to its starting point, make sure that the landing site is still clear. Now, you may want it to land someplace else, and that's a slightly different discussion, but wherever it is, you want to make sure that the landing site is clear. They're not going to land in something bad. Now, there's a couple of different ways to bring your drone back and land it.
There's actually, if you think about it, it's 3 ways. On the controller, you have some auto modes to land. So there's the home button, which is awesome. That means your drone is far away from you, and or not, just not right near where you want to land it, and you want it to automatically return to the spot it took off and land. That's a button that's right on the screen. And it's on the actual controller. There's a home button there. So when you press that button, it will fly and land at home. But here's the thing, and this is one we just discussed. You got to think about safety. So if it's going to return home from exactly where it is it up high enough?
Is it going to clear everything?
It's going to clear everything, just coming straight back home. So if you're going to use the home button, you might want to take it up so that it can fly past anything that it needs to clear to land and come home. So that's great. The next one is you're manually going to fly it to the spot where you want to land it. So like earlier, which is kind of tricky, I wanted to land it right on this table, so I flew it back to the spot I wanted to land it. But then, rather than me trying to land it on my own, which I did a manual landing at the end, there is an actual just land button. Land right where it is. Wherever it is, it will just start to go down and land. Now, in that case, it can get a little picky about where it's going to land if it thinks there's an obstruction around. So if it thinks it's landing on something it shouldn't be landing on or too close to something, it will actually stop and just hover because it doesn't think it has enough clearance. So again, that gets back to the preset, pre-check, making sure you've got enough room to land. And then last but not least, if it will not land automatically, then that means you're going to need to land it manually. And that's probably you don't want to have to do that. So just make sure you got enough room. But if you do have to land it manually, you're just going to bring it down as slowly as you can, let it touch the ground, and then you're going to back off the power and then eventually turn the props off.
Now, he made it sound like it's a really scary thing. I can tell you that I had many landings where that feature was not in my drone. Yeah. It wasn't in my DJI copter. And so I had to actually just pull it down very slowly. It's much easier. Terry is like, you don't want to manually.
You don't want to have to do it, but if you do.
It's not bad. It's not bad at all. People for many years all manually landed their drones.
I'm so spoiled.
He's spoiled. But yeah, if you can press a button and it will land automatically for you, absolutely. But if you have to land it, it's not a big deal. Just land it slowly so it lands nice and gently. You don't want to just go bang and bang it to the ground.
And also what will happen is if there's still enough power going, if it touches down, it might bump, and then now your propeller is at an angle. It might start hitting the ground. So that's what you kind of want to protect your propellers at all costs.
All right, so once you've actually landed and it's on the ground, what do you turn off first?
All right, so this is the most important thing to remember in the powering up and powering down is that you always want the controller on before the copter turns on and after the copter turns off. Because again, that controller is keeping a signal to the Mavic Pro, letting it know, hey, I'm still controlling you, don't fly off, don't let someone else control you. So, since the controller's on, the app's on, I've stopped video, I'm going to go ahead and turn the copter off first. So now that that's off, now I'm okay to turn the controller off because there's nothing left to control.
All right, so that's basically the landing and shutdown procedure for just everyday flying around. All right, in our next segment, we're going to talk about, it's not safety,
Yeah, it's not safety for, like we were talking about in the safety section, where it's for people and avoiding hitting things and damage and insurance and all that. This is more about how to protect the Mavic itself from mishaps and things that...
And flyaways and bad
flyaways.
stuff like that.
Right.
So you're going to want to watch this. There's some important stuff in there. It's short, but important.